The automotive industry is set for a revolution that will disrupt and reshape global business, threatening the survival of every organization. To make sure you survive and win in the new automotive game, Automotive Growth Expert Roberto Dal Corso has interviewed global experts from the automotive industry to identify the changes and the impacts that are coming to keep you ahead of the curve.
Good morning to everyone and welcome. This morning we've got Mehmet Yazici all the way from Turkey. Mehmet's an old friend. Mehmet, welcome and thank you for your time.
Good morning. Good morning.
How are things in Turkey this morning, Mehmet?
Well, now I'm looking outside. It's shiny and it's a very nice day.
That's one of the things I've always loved about Izmir.
Yeah.
Weather is much warmer than most of Europe.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, it's overcast, maybe 12 degrees this morning.
Oh, I think we have the similar climate here.
Okay. I see you wearing a jersey, so it's not so warm.
You are so lucky then.
Mehmet, just quickly as we jump in, I mean, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit? Because I've known you for a long time. I know where you come from, but our listeners and viewers don't. So could you introduce yourself and where you come from and a little bit of your background?
Okay. My name is Mehmet Yazici. Right now, I'm a senior consultant about one of the corporation in Germany. I'm in automotive business for 25 years, especially for the commercial vehicle side as a sales side, and after that as aftermarket management. So I have a lot of experience about the especially for the commercial vehicles industry. I had a chance to work with the three big brands like Scania, Renault Trucks, and Volvo Trucks in the past. And after that, I had a chance to work with the aftermarket organizations as a spare part companies, which is tier one companies to supply products to the OEM companies. So this is briefly my story.
Yeah. And Mehmet, I mean, you said you're in the automotive industry for over 25 years, huge amount of experience. You've worked with some of the major vehicle manufacturers, Scania, Renault, Volvo. Then you moved into the aftermarket side, tier one parts manufacturers. What has been your driving success that's moved you along all of those years?
I mean, within this period, I saw many economic wise some situations, especially here in Turkey. As you know, Turkey is a little bit up and down country for the economic wise, and we have a lot of crisis here. So we saw a lot of good days and at the same time the bad days. I have also some experience about these situations, and also in my opinion, the whole automotive business is improving, and there is a big innovation for the future timing, which means that the next generation vehicles will be on the streets very soon. So today I would like to speak about a little bit for these subjects.
Absolutely. I mean, just in your intro there, you've touched on some very important mega trends, because you talk about the vehicles of the future. And I mean, I know they're going to impact in a lot of different ways. But one of the things you mentioned was, the ups and downs in the automotive industry, particularly in Turkey. And when you look at it, I mean, I think of ups and downs, I can almost put it down as crisis management.
Yeah.
So
One
So
of
what?
the yeah, this is one of the important point, Robbie. I'm just gonna tell you about something about these situations.
Please go ahead and tell us about this.
Okay. During the crisis, it's very late to make an action. For that reason, I'm gonna tell you, if there is a kind of crisis appearing on the sky, what do we have and what should we do in that time? Which means that, does your company ready to handle crisis management? Which means that, do you make any to-do list for the solutions to handle this crisis, to inform the personnel about crisis methods, the financing preparations? It's very important as well. In that case, we have to make sure what should do and what should do not during the crisis methods, which means that the elimination of the personnel is important. You have to check all the positions. You have to clarify the people, which, if it's important, or it's the second or third importancy on the company. Beware about the cut jobs, which is a qualified personals, which means that it is very difficult to find qualified persons in the market right now. So we have to analyze the people. We have to make a good, let's say, motivation to them. And we have to be aware about the overtime works in that period, because sometimes the people is just making some jobs during the day, but it is not very efficient, so they will not finish the processes on time. Extra time, which is overtime works. We have to follow up those situations and make it as much as overtime works. And also the useless duties, which is very important. We have to check all the ongoing business in the company, and we have to clarify, maybe shrink a little bit with some of the sections. Then we have to make a very compact working periods. This is one of the topics which I get according to my experience.
Wow, I mean, you've mentioned so many things there, because, as you quite rightfully say, in times of crisis, which I think the industry in not just Turkey, but generally the automotive industry is in a time of crisis because of the amount of change going on. And I mean, some of the things you talk about in how to manage the crisis, you talk about, do you have to-do lists? You look at, how are the people involved in it? Is the financials prepared for it? There's changes coming. And then you take it down into, more on the personal side, is if you're ever going to have to reduce personnel, you're going to be very careful of the jobs you're going to be cutting. Don't cut down the qualified people, and beware of, because if you have less people, then the ones that are left generally need to go and do overtime work, which again has financial implications on it. So there's so much there, because also then when you get new people in, you might land up having to train them, and do they have the necessary skills to deal with both the OE side and the aftermarket and the changes taking place. So you've really mentioned so many things in there. If there was, out of all of that, one key thing that was the most important in your experience, what would that be?
I mean, both sides, even the management side and also even as the personal side, There are a lot of things to be talked about on this subject, but one of the important point, Robbie, how we can motivate the staff in this crisis circumstances, because it's fully negative picture in front of us. There is no any jobs, there is no any customers in front of us. All the people is very pessimistic. What should we do? In that case, we have to inform all the personnel about the importance of this crisis methods. For sure, they should understand what they should do in these circumstances. This is one of the big subject.
Yes.
And this is also good timing for the training of the personnel, because the business was a little bit slowed down. There is some space to make this training on time, on duty as well, which means that the experience of the people, they need also updating of some of the jobs and some of the customer relations as well, which means that we have to create customer-oriented sales and aftermarket organization in that cases, because nobody will come into the shops and also the services as well. So we have to go the customer. We have to tell them the advantages of our works, our parts. And if there is a campaigns, we have to announce them, okay, you have an advantages by this time, come to our services, come to our shops, and then you will be get as much as campaigns and also the advantages. We have to explain everything to the customer. We cannot wait in the shops, even the customer comes to us. This is one of the big points.
Absolutely, and I think what you mentioned there is very important. Motivation of your staff during times of crisis, but I think even a bigger picture is not just times of crisis. How do you motivate your staff in general? But in times of crisis, you can also look at the crisis in terms of an opportunity, where you have the opportunity to inform your staff and help them be motivated with what's going on, but at the same time see it as an opportunity to train them and develop their skills, and also as an opportunity to develop new ways of trying to add value to your customers, to the end users, and bring them in and create value and opportunities for potential sales. Would that be correct?
Yeah, exactly. And also I would like to add one more point, Robbie, for the companies as well. During this crisis time, all the companies has just focused on the financing controls of the company, because to protect the company on a good way. Is it enough to control the financing, or do we need another things? Which means that we have to check our stocks. Stock controls is very important in that case. Cash flow controls. Focus on the customer accounts to collections the money on time. And also rescheduling of the debts of company, and also the credits as well, if we use any credits, to negotiate with the banks, and also to negotiate with the suppliers, to spread a little bit much more time about the debts in order to control the cash flow. And in that case, for the customer-wise, we need much more advertising and also the customer events, which means that to bring the customer in our premises. We can arrange some breakfasts, some cocktails, some, the campaign details. The only thing is just bring all the customers to the premises in order to get a very warm relations. This is also very important.
Yeah, I think finances, as you mentioned, is absolutely always important because, especially in times of change and crisis, there's various ways, as you say.
But it is not enough only the finance control. It needs also the whole package.
Yes, the whole package in terms of controlling your internal finances, but at the same time making available the opportunities for advertising, customer events, in order to get closer to your customer.
Yeah.
And Mehmet, can I change subject quickly, or do you want to add something else onto that one?
Well, actually, we can talk much more on this subject because it's very deep.
It's a deep one, this year.
But at the moment, I think it is enough to get the messages to the people. Of course, we can go to other subjects as well.
No, I just wanted to touch a little bit because you've described, I think you've given our viewers a lot of good, valuable information on how to manage the crisis and things to think about. Can you tell us what some of the crisis, or as other people might like to put it, what are some of the opportunities or crises in taking place in Turkey today?
Well, actually, in Turkey, the crisis never ends. This is the nature of our country. I'm 59 years old, and I saw 5 or 6 big crises here in Turkey, and still we are not in a good mood. We are also, I can say, a little bit economic crisis still continue here in Turkey, and that's why now I'm just visiting some of the dealers network, and I'm just keeping the people warm about the business. I try to help them, which I already mentioned here about the customer relations and also the spare part sales, the vehicle sales. So the life is just rolls on these conditions.
Yeah. No, that's. I mean, it certainly is. As you say, there's been 5 or 6 mega crises in your, in your lifetime. What are some of the big trends impacting and disrupting the industry, the automotive industry in your area today?
Every crisis has a very negative aspects and also has a good opportunities to enlarge the business, to make new ideas, to get the strong impacts of the companies. I can give you a very good sample right now. Look at the Ford trucks. Ford trucks is just born about these situations, and now it is take the truck of the year in Hanover Fair this year, which means that Turkey has a new own brand, and it appears from these kind of difficult situations.
Absolutely.
I think this is a good example.
Yeah, no, thank you for that example. So if I understand, out of times of crisis, you also have opportunities, and you've just mentioned one where new brands, new products, new services can be born, and before you know it, they're on the world stage.
Exactly.
And what are some of the trends impacting? I mean, you mentioned that you do a lot in the aftermarket, going out to service dealers and networks. What do you see is impacting them? What are some of their problems out there today? Why are they in a crisis?
Okay, let me tell you. I am concentrate on the CAM managers in the company, which means that key account managers of the services. Those guys are following the customers all the time and making a contact of the customers and has to inform about all the new products, new campaigns, advantages. It has to be a face-to-face B2 management, and I'm just giving a kind of training to them as psychologically how to communicate with the customer, and also the communications, how we can talk on the telephone, which we don't see the people, what they are doing there, how their situation, how their philosophy at the moment. So it is very tricky point than if you open up phone and try to explain some of your products, but which is the not exact time to speak about for him or for her about this time. So this is a tricky times. I'm just explaining that kind of conversations, how it will go and how it will be direct to the customers as well. And we are also doing workshops for the relations of the customers.
How prepared are you to navigate the disruptive trends that are set to hit your business? Will you survive and win in the coming years? To understand your level of risk exposure and to help you avoid becoming a statistic of failure, take the free risk assessment here, www.dalcorsogroup.com, which will identify the gaps and how to navigate the risks. By taking the risk assessment, you get a chance to win a free 30-minute strategy session with Automotive Growth Expert Roberto Dal Corso. Roberto can help you identify an amount equivalent to 7% of your total annual sales that you are leaving on the table each year. To survive and win, take action now and visit www.dalcorsogroup.com.
I'm just giving a training to the key account managers of the services of the dealers for one of the big brands here in Turkey. The project is continue about, let's say, around roughly 2 years. And we get a very good positive results about this training. So what are we trained to the people? First of all, we are just show them how to communicate with the customers on the right way, on the right time, and also explain the packages of the campaigns. To show them use the original parts, and also to show them how we can help them in a tough conditions. This is one of the important point of the training sessions. And otherwise, we have also some how can I explain? We have a kind of connections as a physically to just see the people's audience atmospheres at the moment. Do we at the right time to be here, open the subjects for the sales, or maybe it's not right time, so we have to explain a little bit and then take another appointment to visit them again. Mm-hmm. It's a kind of philosophy of the physically contact with the third people. And also we are just training them for the phone conversations. Is it the right time to open up phone call and then explain some of the campaigns about the parts or whatever else. Maybe it's not the right time, so we have to just a little bit concentrate on the conversations.
Okay.
So,
Sorry, go.
yeah, so this is roughly the training physically and also at the same time for the company brand education.
Okay, so you're doing some amazing work in what it sounds like, in brand education, as you mentioned, but also in the importance of face-to-face relationships, as
Yes,
well as how to speak to clients and customers on the telephone.
exactly.
Well, what if out of all of that, because I know your workshops and trainings are over a period of time, if you had one key element that is most important, what do you think that element would be that people should know and be aware of?
First of all, the people should, the people which I trained, they learned they should be always very optimistic in such a what kind of circumstances. They have to prepare themselves. They are the pioneer of the company, because after the sale you have no any connection with the customer till if the customer needs another vehicle for the next future, let's say for 5 years or 7 years later. So those people are the fingers of the company to touch the customer. If they need any help about the services, and if they need some parts, it's urgent sometimes, and sometimes they looking for another alternatives in the market. So we have to just keep these customers, we have to keep our hands on the customers. That's the main idea about this program.
Okay, no, that is certainly of good to know, and I think of great value. And what if companies don't do what you are suggesting and don't train and don't develop their people? What is going to happen to companies like that?
Well, they will disappear very soon, for sure, or they should shrink the company and then let the other companies enter to their working areas. It's for sure, because nowadays it's very tough days to find a customer, to do the right job, to make a good contact with the customers, because the customers are the how can I say, they are the blood lines of the companies. Without customer, you will be die.
Yeah. So if I understood correctly, companies out there that are not prepared to change through these crises, through implementing training, through helping their workforce expand their skills and be closer to the customer, these companies will eventually disappear because they're going to lose sales, which is going to result in lower profitability, but they're also going to be losing market share to their competitors who are doing that.
Yeah.
So if you really want to grow, you need to invest in your personnel, in your people, in your leaders, in their skills.
For sure. The important point during the crisis, sometimes the management or the boss of the companies always think about to shrink the business. Let's make a compact business and don't touch any, let's say risky areas, which is wrong, because in that case, you have to be much more attractive on the market. Of course, you have to protect yourself about which we already talk about the financing side. Also, the overtime works and so on. the useless, I can say, works. But you have to train your people and then let them to make a B2 contacts with the customers face to face. It is very important.
So face to face, absolutely important.
Yes.
And Mehmet,
Yes.
something I know that you know a lot about, and I wanted to have a chat, and you mentioned it right up front, is you were talking about, the future of the new generation of
Oh, yeah.
companies and products in the automotive industry and in the automotive aftermarket. What are some of the things that you see happening in the industry in Turkey?
Okay. If we talk about the crisis, it can continue all the way.
Crisis is always going to be with us, as you say.
As I told you, the crisis is just creates another new business areas, which means that the next generation vehicles. I'm just focused on a little bit this subject because today it's a really big innovations for the commercial vehicles and also the passenger cars as well, which means that for the next, let's say, 5 to 7 years, not more, I'm not telling you 10 years, but 5 to 7 years, maybe 50% of the vehicles will be changed for the new next generation vehicles. Which means that they have a totally different components, which means that we have to prepare our brand, our company, our dealer network about these changes. So, does your company, does your brand ready to handle these changes? This is very important. I'm talking about completed all the innovation on the next generation vehicles as a brand. Inform the network about the next generation vehicles launching. Okay, we have a new, completely new technology vehicles will be launched in the next coming months. We have to inform the network. We have to train the technical side and also the sales side of the organization. And one more thing is very important: spare part organization. They have to ready to deliver the next generation vehicle parts to the network as well. And spare part stocks availability. We have to contact with the suppliers. We have to get the all components to our warehouse in order to spread the network on time. So this is a completely big package of the next generation vehicles as a brand organization.
Wow. I mean, over the next 5 to 7 years, 50%, 1 in 2 vehicles will be changed into the next generation, which is going to have, as you say, implications for the distributors, for the workshops in terms of product, in terms of training, in terms of stock. So the big question is going to be, what do you see being the next generation vehicle? Because you've got to be seeing things out there today. Where are we going?
As far as I saw on the informations which the companies already mentions via internet and also the big fairs, all the vehicles, I'm talking about the commercial side, all the, let's say, truck powertrains is disappearing. They will have a new components on the under the truck. there won't be any differential, there won't be any cardan shaft, there won't be any gearbox, and even the classic conventional engine will be disappear. Instead of this, there will be fully electronical equipment which controls with some of the buttons, and some of the electronic sensors will give the directions to the wheels, and it has been generated wheels to move the vehicles and also to stop the vehicles, which means that all the braking system will be changed at the same time. So by these conditions, we have to work hard to prepare all the dealer network to ready these changes. We have to fix the necessary equipment on the dealer premises before we sell these products to the customers. And also, we have to complete full training of the aftermarket department, how they will fix the equipments on the trucks, on the vehicles, and how they will get the services, in which period it needs a kind of services. And also we have to train the sales department, how we can sales, what's the advantages and the disadvantages of this new generation vehicles. We have to train the people, and also we have to make the necessary equipment investment at the same time, and also we have to make a let's say scheduled time planning about this necessary equipment investment. It is also very important for the servicing of these cars or vehicles. All the dealer has the same standards. Spare parts stocks also very important. And finally, advertising and launching process to be completed as scheduled. At the same time, test drive vehicles should be available all the dealers network, because customers wants to see and test these vehicles as soon as possible to see how it works and how will be the advantages for them to use these vehicles. So this is I mean, I'm very excited to explain this situation, but as far as I see that it's coming and coming very, very let's say big snowball.
No, but it's so exciting to hear, because I mean what you've just described is absolutely a new aftermarket game on the commercial vehicle side, because as you say, the traditional products, the engines, transmissions, drive axles are going to disappear, be replaced by new products which need to have new technology in how to service them, how to sell them, how to engage the end user of the trucks. So this is certainly coming a whole new system, and it's exciting because, as you say, it's a snowball that is coming, it's picking up speed, and I don't think it's a question anymore of if it's going to happen, it's just a matter of how quickly it's going to happen.
It's already started. It's already started. We cannot avoid them. I mean, all the brands has a new products of the next generation vehicles, as far as I see from the all internet and also the fairs as well. Maybe we will see on the streets very soon. But we have to control the companies. We have to control the networks to be ready. Because if the brand is already announced and if it will launch the product itself, it will not enough.
Yeah.
It needs whole organization should be ready for this implementation.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And while you were explaining that, I was just thinking I was recently having a chat with the CEO of one of the big European buying groups, and he was telling me, very similar to what you've said, is he goes, the automotive aftermarket is going through change, and it's like the frog in the boiling water. The temperature keeps going up, and the frog is inside, and before he knows it, we all know what happens to the frog. And and he turned around to me and he said, it's going to be interesting to see which tier one manufacturers and which distributors are going to jump out of the pot, because the other ones will not be around.
It's a big challenge.
Yeah.
It's a big challenge.
And I like your approach on it, which is very similar to the way I see it is, with all the changes going on, the only way to navigate and manage the change is with the people, because at the end of the day, your products are going to change, your brand might change, the market is changing, customer needs are changing, but your people is what's going to keep it together.
And Robbie, don't forget, training. It's very important for all the time. So all the time, all the staff should be trained well about these situations. And also one more point is very important for me, how to handle the passing over from the conventional vehicles to next generation vehicles. It's going to be a passing period about this. And in that case, it's also some advantages for the companies, for the networks to prepare themselves by training the people, get the correct personnel for the next generation, because most probably it needs a less mechanics than today, instead of some computer skilled software, hardware mechanics as well, like a mechatronic people needs for the business. So this timeline should be a kind of transaction of the, let's say, from the conventional vehicles to the next generation vehicles.
So the transition between existing to the new vehicles is going to be critical, because it's going to bring potentially new crisis, but at the same time new opportunities if done well.
For sure.
No,
yeah.
That is certainly interesting. Mehmet, I know I'm conscious of your time and I don't want to take more of it. Just a couple of final questions. Changing gears a little bit, what are some of your passions outside of the automotive industry?
Outside of the automotive? Well, actually, for the next future.
No, I was thinking, when you're not working Monday to Friday in the automotive industry, training people, helping companies, what do you get excited? What is passionate for you?
Well, actually, I'm just keeping some time to my son and family as well. Here in Izmir, we have a lot of opportunity. And at the same time, we are just traveling to Istanbul, and also we have a house in Çanakkale. We are spending some time there. And also I'm just trying to get some information about this new vehicles industry with my friends here in Turkey, and also in some European countries as well.
Okay, so family values are very important to you. You enjoy traveling with them, spending time with them, and creating value for them.
Of course.
No, I like it. And I think that's why we've always gotten along so well over. I mean, at the beginning you were talking about being in the automotive industry for 25 years, and I think I've known you for probably 10 to 12 of those 25 years.
Yeah.
So about half of them.
Exactly.
But Mehmet, I know that, if anyone is seeing and hearing this and they want to enter in or need information about the Turkish market, you are definitely the person to speak to.
Yeah.
And one big takeaway for a company that's thinking of coming to Turkey, what would that be?
Wow. It's a big question.
Yeah, one takeaway.
Of course, there is a kind of easy and also not easy accesses to be here in the local market. Turkey is a big country. It's an energetic situation, but at the same time, it's very, very tough market. There are a lot of topics to be explained, but I think we don't have that much of time. Maybe it's better if we talk about these subjects for the other sections.
So it sounds like there's an easy way and a hard way to get into Turkey. If you want the easy route, contact Mehmet and he can help you.
Yeah, of course, why not? All the time.
And Mehmet, just a side question. I mean, I know I'm jumping a little bit, but going back to the new vehicles of tomorrow, do you see remanufacturing existing or falling away, or it's going to be there, but just on new products in the future?
Of course, of course. Remanufacturing will be much more important for the new vehicles because as kind of electronic vehicles, it needs a kind of remanufacture of some electronic parts and also some of the moving parts as well, as we do in the conventional vehicles right now. Here in Turkey, I'm also consultancy of one of the clutch reman business here. And some of the components, instead of selling all the time for the new ones, it needs to repair, it needs to remanufacturing, because these parts is not damaging on the vehicles. Only some of the equipment needs to change. Maybe it's better to use this way as a kind of economic, let's say, closest to the economically closest to the customers, because it will be much more advantageous for them to use the original parts as a reman instead of some alternatives, cheap solutions.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad you've mentioned it, really, because reman, as you rightfully say, is going to remain and it's going to get stronger. And one of our other speakers was also mentioning, and he was coming from a Chinese perspective, and he was explaining exactly the same as you, the importance of it,
yeah,
and going forward, the advantages and disadvantages. So that's fantastic to know.
We will make another speech about this reman business in the future, Robbie.
Yeah, I think so, because that's an interesting topic, just all on its own. But Mehmet, exactly. If I can quickly sum up before moving on, I mean, to me, it's been very good. Thank you so much for your time, because to me,
it's my pleasure.
My big takeaway from this has really been, in times of crisis, whether it can be a big or a small crisis, but change is absolutely important. And one of the key ways to change is to invest and train and work with your staff.
Exactly.
So Mehmet, I can only say, thank you so much. It's been fantastic talking to you again. And I hope you come to Switzerland soon, and I hope we get together again soon.
Why not? Of course, all the time.
Mehmet, thank you so much, and we will stay in touch.
Thank you very much, Robbie. See you.
I hope that you have enjoyed and found value in watching this interview. If you want to learn more about the leading disruptive automotive trends impacting the industry, check out www.dalcorsogroup.com. I encourage you to share it with colleagues that will appreciate great industry insights. Join us tomorrow for more experts from around the world.